It is 3:02 p.m. We will officially call today's meeting to order. We're going to go ahead and do introductions. We have some guest speakers that are going to talk a little bit later, Kristen Fix and Kim Parker. So just do a brief intro, and then we'll do a little bit more of an introduction when we go into the success stories. So if you're able to just hand it off to the next person on the screen, that would be wonderful. I'll start. My name's Kaylin Lane. I am a co-chair with Chris here for the KIT Continuous Improvement Committee, and I serve as a field coordinator for the Ford Family Foundation, live out in Condon, Oregon, and also have the privilege of serving on East Cascade Works. Let's see, I'll hand it over to you, Chris.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us this afternoon. Chris Latimer. I'm the Senior Director for Training and Development for Knife River Corporation. So I work here at the training center, but my team also serves 7,000 employees across our 14 states. So super excited today. I was whining to Kaylin a little bit ago that not really whining, but we have 200 of our team members here in-house today with 20 vendors. And so it's quite the show around here right now. So thanks again for taking time to join us for a good conversation this afternoon. Mary. Oh, I'm supposed to go next. How about we hand it to Brent?
Everybody, my name is Brent Kell. I've been on the KIT committee for a couple of years. My day job is CEO of Valley Immediate Care in Southern Oregon, and I also currently serve as chair of Rogue Workforce Partnership, our local workforce investment board. I'll hand it to Mary.
Thanks, Brent. I'm Mary. I'm the new executive director over at Rogue Workforce Partnership, serving Jackson and Josephine County. And this is my 5th day on the job or so. Very happy to see you all. And I will hand it to Francis.
All right. Thank you so much, Mary. I just am so happy to be here. I'm Frances Robbins, and I'm the owner of New Start Psychiatry and TMS. We have 2 mental health outpatient clinics, one in Salem, one in Portland, and it's a nurse practitioner led facility. So we have 11 nurse practitioners that care for about 1,500 patients a month. So we see quite a few folks across Oregon and Washington State. I also work at Chemeketa and am the instructor and lead for the LPN to RN apprentice program, which is the only one in the state of Oregon. So I'm very, very excited and busy and eager to learn more about this group, because I'd like to become more active and not just meet every 4 times a year. So that's why I'm here.
I'll go ahead and jump in. Thank you, Francis. And before I introduce myself, I'll introduce myself. I think everybody knows me pretty much, but Todd Nell, Director of the Workforce and Talent Development Board. And I wanted to give a little bit more context around Francis being here. Francis is one of our newest members, and we're excited to have her on the State Workforce Board, representing both business primarily and obviously education secondarily. I think a close second, if not a tie. That said, we extended an invitation to her and another new member of the WTDB, Alice Cadman, who is with Lamb Research up in Tualatin and is, I think, Chief Operations Officer for manufacturing there, to come in as new members and sit in on the Continuous Improvement Committee to really better understand a bit about the work. And then to Francis' comment, potentially consider joining as members of the KIC as we move forward. So with that, I'll toss it over to Ashley.
You may hear sirens in the background, so if you do, apologize. I'm in DC right now. Lots of snow. It's pretty winter wonderland over here. So Ashley Espinoza. I am the Executive Director of Lane Workforce Partnership. We're one of the 9 workforce boards, and I am the staff to the KIC as a representative of OWP. So nice to be with all of you. Tara.
Thank you, Ashley. Hi, everyone. Tara Morrell. I'm with the Oregon Employment Department. I'm the Workforce Operations Division Deputy Director and here representing the OED section of workforce partnerships in Oregon. And I will pass it to Sarah. We'll keep it in the name family.
Hi, everyone. Sarah Stevens, CEO and Executive Director at the Southwestern Oregon Workforce Investment Board, serving Coos Curry Douglas. Happy to be here. And I'll pass it to Heather DeSar.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, everyone. Heather Dessard, Executive Director and CEO of Northwest Oregon Works. We are a local workforce board, one of 9, and I'm also currently serving as the chair of the Oregon Workforce Partnership that Ashley mentioned earlier. We are the association of the 9 local boards across the state. Happy to be here. And I will pass it to Brent.
I think I already introduced myself. Brent Kell from Valley Immediate Care.
How about Craig and then Kristen and then Georgia?
Hi, Craig here. Polk County Commissioner, 4 terms, so more than 15 years serving in workforce development. And I don't know how long I've been on this KIC board, but I think since it started. And also am the chief local elected official for Willamette Workforce Partnership.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Kristen Fix. I am the Business Services Program Manager for East Cascades Works, one of the 9 local workforce development boards. And Georgia.
Hi, Georgia Conrad. I'm the Executive Director of the Oregon Workforce Partnership, which is the association of Oregon's 9 workforce boards.
I don't think, Clay, did you have a chance?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm in the same office as Todd, so we have a little feedback problem. Clay Martin, I am staff to the Workforce and Talent Development Board and lurking in the background.
Wonderful. And how about Jennifer?
Hi there, good afternoon. I am Jennifer Denning and I'm staff at the Higher Education Coordinating Commission and I support various projects within the WTDB.
Excellent. Did we leave anyone out? I sure hope not. Again, as
Aaliyah didn't get a chance to introduce herself.
Aaliyah.
Oh, darn, I was hoping I could just fade into the background. Hi, everyone. My name is Aaliyah Sobolowski. I am the Executive Support Specialist and Board Administrator for the WTDB. So I'm the behind the scenes. Good to be here today.
And the heart. We couldn't do it without Aaliyah. We're super grateful for her. And as Chris mentioned, thank you everyone for your time this afternoon. At this time, we'd open the floor for any public comments.
There are no public comments from my end.
Excellent. The next action item then is to approve the minutes from the December 1st committee meeting. Did everyone receive the packet? And is there any discussion?
Unfortunately, Kaylin, we do not have a quorum yet. We are still two KIC members short for a quorum, but I can loop back around if we get quorum.
Sure, that sounds great. All right, Todd, I'll hand it over to you for Continuous Improvement Committee purpose and charter.
Great, thanks, Kaylin. In planning for the meeting, we thought a few things would be good to cover off. I'm going to try and do that pretty quickly so that we can get into the next section of the agenda. One, to talk about the purpose of the committee and a little bit of a refresher on the charter, including some membership opportunities. then a quick status on the request for proposal for the 2026 WorkSource Oregon assessment, and then a quick flash of the sort of draft and still to be determined project plan timeline. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. This many of you will recognize as the current charter that calls out the purpose around. Did somebody have a question?
No, sorry, it was my radio.
Oh, it's okay. Ongoing assessment of the WorkSource Oregon centers around the state or system, rather. It outlines sponsors, the chairs, co-chairs, staff, and then really sort of gets into the opportunity statement around the state sort of needing a workforce system, a public workforce system that's responsive, innovative, and customer-centered. Calls out the different partners that are included in the work. And then I think this was in your packet. If you want to go back and take a particularly newer members or those of you who just might not know, a look at this. The purpose of the committee there in the middle of the scope is to really develop, solicit, and manage a procurement for a third party, more objective sort of vendor engagement to assess the WorkSource Oregon system. And you got 3 bullets after that. The assessment to be undertaken every even numbered year. Of course, it's 2026. So we're beginning to get into the thick of that. The assessment will be jointly supported and participated in by all WorkSource Oregon partners. And last, it should tie with local one-stop operators, center certification requirements, and state monitoring efforts. So that's sort of a high flyover of purpose and scope, calls out the different stakeholders, and then gets into the membership. And I just want to briefly touch on this. Here it outlines that 50-50 state balance, local balance that we're looking for state business, for local business representatives, a couple of labor folks at both the state and local level. And then thank you, Craig, for your service as a local elected official. We do have, though, a few openings due to folks who turned out or rolled off for various reasons. At the state level, this is why I invited Alice and I invited Francis to come and attend to see if they might be interested in joining, because we have 2 openings in terms of business people at the state level for the state board. There's also an opening, at least one, I think, at the local level. I have reached out at the recommendation of Kaylin, Heather Ficht, I think Chris, and maybe one other local board director, to Dave, I'm going to say his name wrong, Bioki, who is a business person over in Bend at a company named Spark Compass. And he and I are meeting this Friday to talk about the kick. And hopefully I'll be able to work some magic and get him to put his hat in the ring and join us as a Eastern Oregon, community representative on the kick. So that's really it in terms of what I wanted to share around the charter and membership. The other thing I wanted to do, and I was channeling you, Craig Pope, hoping I could get really good information to share today. I think I got pretty close. I met when it comes to sort of the status on the RFP, and I met with Derek Disney, who's the procurement manager, as you know, Craig, and for others here at the HEC. And we were very hopeful that it would hit the streets last Friday, but we did run into a little bit of an opportunity, I think. So Craig, I finally got pretty good response in terms of taking the overall costing for the project from 150 up to what we all sort of talked about last time, that 200 grand figure to be more, current market to drive more response to the RFP. So it looks like all the partners that we had targeted have agreed to participate in the funding. I also talked with Georgia a little bit about the opportunity that might exist for OWP to come in and help support as well. All that said, it looks like we will get to at least that $200,000 number to call out in the overall project budget for the assessment. And it looks like there's a really good chance that it will go out this week. So there's the update as it pertains to the RFP. I'll stop there at this point. Any questions?
So I have a question specific to any kind of holdback from, so we move that up to 200,000 or so, holdback number for administrative costs.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about what you're asking, Craig.
Well, so we're allowed, are you saying that we're allowed up to 200, if this goes through, allowed up to $200,000 for the RFP? So for the actual work that needs to get done, is there additional dollars that need to help pay, offset your time, Clay, anybody else that's working in this process?
Okay, yeah, I better understand. No, it's baked in. That 200 would be fully attributable to payment for activities and deliverables accomplished by the contracted party.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And then last, real quick, the most recent sort of timeline that we put together, which is being reviewed right now by procurement, is right here with an anticipated, this is pushing it as opposed to trying to go the other way and leave plenty of time. So kickoff meeting by March 23rd of this year. Other meetings, obviously, for those of you who have been involved in it in the past, all the way from March up to September. Final draft to the kick by mid-November. Final report that first part of December. And really driving to be done one day at the latest ahead of the December 15th date that is called out for it to be to the governor, legislature, and other partners. So that's all I have, and I'll stop sharing and toss it back to you, Kaylin.
That sounds great. I guess open it up for discussion. And Ashley, is there anything that you want to highlight in the RFP that, as a group that we really collectively wanted it to have a community forward focus? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would thank you, because I was gonna kick it to one of you or Chris, but I am happy to just share. So I'm new to the kick, and so when I came in, it was when we were developing the RFP, and so there was really great discussion about being thoughtful and getting out to all of the different regions, making sure that the rural communities are being very represented, and it being very community based and having that be the expectation. What else did you want me to mention about that, Kaylin?
Yeah, no, I just think it's worth highlighting that the deliverables are really to engage with local areas and regions to bring together to the table the workforce investment boards, along with the service providers and the people that they're serving, and how can we really elevate, of the regions, the work that's being done really well. And in other parts of the state, where are they struggling? And how can we strengthen each other's systems and really work together and use this assessment to to have the language of the people that are doing the work and those that it's serving. So we're hoping to come to communities to break bread, to really focus on relationships and gather that data from the people right there. Chris,
Yeah.
anything?
I would just say, echoing what you said, Kaylin, the idea of moving away from a bunch of surveys that are sent out and Teams meetings that are set up, and we never actually get to see each other, touch each other, smell each other, but to actually be there together and have conversations and dialogue and get at the real, what's really going on and what can we support to help with making continuous improvement actually happen. And how do we come together to serve businesses and job seekers better? And so to me, it feels better and different. I've only been on the kick a couple of years, but it feels better and different and more real than the previous RFP, which I never could connect with. So
yeah. Thank you. Thanks. So is there any questions from the group here? Craig?
Come on. There I am. So one of the first things, and I think I see this every time, first of all, before I say what I always say, is that we're now approaching $500,000 spent in doing reviews of the system. And I always have to wonder, what have we actually accomplished in spending that kind of money? And not to be critical of anybody, but as I remember the bill, it was supposed to be about identifying potential fatal flaws in workforce systems in Oregon and what is it really that workforce boards and administrators want to see fixed. So I'm curious about what was it we said year one in the review process versus what are we seeing today? And I think it's appropriate in scope of work that we are able to look back in that and say what's changed, what's different. I do worry additionally that again there's so few contractors able to do this kind of work for us. It's a pretty shallow little pond that we're fishing in here, and if we continue to use the same contractor, which is entirely possible, that we end up with a repeat of some of the same work. So I find that part very frustrating. The other thing I would say, just to my criticism of our process, and I think Todd and Clay and others may agree, is that the turnaround time to do this leaves very little opportunity for a contractor to actually reach out to workforce boards. I mean boards, not just administrators. And again, all due respect to the administrators, executive directors, they have to be careful about the things they say because they live in a political world too. But geez, I'd sure like to hear from workforce board chairs and other people who are getting direct opportunities with workforce boards on what they see in the workforce system. And a few of you here are doing that on your own, of course, and have that to add. It's a frustrating thing that we have this mandate to put this report together, but we just have so little time for a contractor to actually get it done. So I hope that we'll be able to drill down on that a little bit more and find some finer points that we can get our contractor to work on that will give us some, tell us what's really broken. Tell us what's not doing well. I don't want to hear the same things that, we're making progress.
I hear you. Todd, did you want to speak a little bit about contractors and how that's changing with this?
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like Ann has her hand up.
Do you want Todd to go first? Kaylin, do you want me to speak?
Go ahead and answer Craig's question if you can, Todd.
Yeah, sure. So a few things that come to mind, Craig. Yeah, that look back to better understand what's already happened, where we're at, and look forward is part of the statement of work with the new contractor and part of what happens in the kickoff meeting. In terms of return on investment, I think that could be part of that discussion. Staff, I think, could also take a look-see at the previous 3 reports and bring that to an upcoming meeting. A third thing that comes to mind, in the past, we've done a couple of different things, if I remember correctly, Craig. That is to use the entire committee as the RFP awarding committee. I think one time we actually asked for volunteers and created a subcommittee of this committee to get involved in that. So I think there's an opportunity there as we, review what comes in from whom to make some decisions. Obviously, one of those choices could be if you or the subcommittee aren't satisfied with the responses, to strategize and talk about what could be next. And to your point, it is a very slow bureaucratic process when it comes to the procurement piece, but something to think about there. So did I answer all of the questions you had, Craig?
Todd, aren't we also able to open this up to different vendors at this time?
Yeah. Yes, thanks for the reminder. One of the things that we talked about, I think in the last meeting, if not the last 2 meetings, was instead of utilizing perhaps what appears to be a more efficient strategy to get the RFP out there and utilize the preferred vendor list at the state, of which our previous contractor was on. I worked with Derek in procurement to make sure that we won't use that approach this time. It will be out to the whole market, a broader cast of the net, if you will. So hopefully that results in a more diverse and full response to the RFP.
Super. So Craig, we heard what you said at the last meeting regarding the pay, what we were actually offering for this work, and then also the opportunity to be able to open it up to a wider audience of contractors. So one of our asks for this group today will be, once it's ready to go out, if you're willing to share it and cast it to anyone in your network who may be able to serve in this capacity. Anne.
Hi. 2 things. One, I love what Craig said, and yes, I've heard it before. He's very consistent. I think that it could be really interesting, to the extent that we have people that are repeating participation in the interviews. In particular, would love to hear that. Like, oh, did you know that 3 years ago we said we were going to do this? This is what we've done so far. This is what we haven't done. Does it matter anymore? Like, there's probably a nice little intro piece that kind of says, do we need to change course because this is where we were and what we didn't get done, or what we did get done, and does that still matter? I don't know. I just think there could be a there. I hadn't realized it had been 3 years, and I was like, gosh, there's probably enough there that could make an interesting part of that work. The other was, I wondered about the intersection with, and I can't remember what it's called, the Governor's Prosperity Council or whatever. And I was thinking that perhaps they would be recipients of some of those interviews, or even maybe just made aware that we're doing this work, and that it's legislated that we do it, but also like that we want their input or something. I think we're trying to look for ways to connect more with that group, so they're not over here doing that stuff and then everybody else is over here. So this could be actually a nice little way to get them involved a little bit. I'm not saying like way overdo it, because that could be a whole thing unto itself, but maybe just using making them aware of it and then interviewing a couple of them or something. I don't know. I'll leave that with you all to figure out.
Wonderful. Yes. I actually spoke to Nate Stice and Courtney Crowell with Regional Solutions last week, saying, hey, we're going out for RFP. These folks are going to be coming into our communities. Is there a way that Regional Solutions, the people that are on these teams, can help gather those to come to these conversations. So it all starts here, folks, right? Listening and learning and plugging in where we can and where it makes sense. Todd, your hand's raised.
Oh, thanks, Kaylin. Thanks, Ann. Just FYI, similarly as we did under your tenure as chair, although Venkat won't be with us because he's on a bit of a vacation, Julia and I are going to be meeting with Sarah this week. We did talk with her about engagement between the WTDB and the Prosperity Council, and she assured Venkat that we would be consulted, you'd be consulted. And so I just made a note. I'll make sure to sort of raise your point in that meeting on Thursday with her. So, I think Ashley, I don't know if you want to say anything, but if I remember right, you had suggestions around connectivity with the Prosperity Council, WTDB, and the KIC as well.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of discussion around how are we connecting with business and industry, and that's a big focus of the Prosperity Roadmap. It's a big focus of the KIC, and then also the Oregon Employment Department also had a mandate from the governor to increase the connectivity to business. And so there has been a lot of effort around, how does the workforce boards support business services as a convener, and then bringing partners together to have one conversation to support that work. And so actually Kristen Fix is one of the chairs of the business services for that Oregon Workforce Partnership group. And we met with Oregon Employment Department lead to set up quarterly meetings with those folks that will include people from the WTDB and with Business Oregon, and kind of just making sure that we're all having these conversations and that we're playing off of each other in a meaningful way. I'll drop the 4 pillars that these fine folks came up with that really encompass kind of the desired business engagement, business services. So that work is happening in the background. So that when we do start when this, the consultant is working, there is a space that they can go to and they don't have to go to 5 million different places. So yes, so that's happening as well.
Excellent. Any questions? Any further discussion on the RFP? Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to introduce the next piece of today's agenda, and we're going to hear a little bit about success stories from the field. And I'm happy to introduce Kristen Fix, who's the Business Service Program Manager for East Cascade Works. Kristen's here with us today to share a success story that highlights the impact of work supporting local businesses and strengthening our local regional workforce. East Cascade Works serves a 10-county region in rural Oregon, east of the Cascade Mountains. It's a large area covering nearly 30,000 square miles, and Kristen does an amazing job. Kristen, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Kaylin. Thanks again for having me. I'm going to share my screen. We are a Zoom organization, so bear with me for a second. Is that shared? Okay, great. So thanks for the introduction. I just wanted to introduce myself again. I've been with EC Works for just under 3 years. My professional background that I bring to this role includes 15 years in the mental health field, and then I've also done correctional work with government, nonprofit management, economic development work, community leadership, and I'm also a small business owner in the Gorge. I live in our northern subregion. In this role, I manage our behavioral health consortium contract with Juniper Mountain Counseling in Bend. And then I also work with the workforce managers and staff who do services directly for employers. And then a really important part of business services is, and Ashley kind of touched on this, all the partner work. And I convene industry leaders. I sit on several committees. I sit on chamber committees, on advisory panels. So it's more than just working directly with employers because the umbrella is pretty large. So this just quickly is our program team. Our director of programs, Teresa, and then there's 4 program managers. These are sort of our areas of work that we have divided up among our team. And then this is our operations team. So everyone that does all of the logistics behind the scene to keep the, the organization functioning so that we can do this work. And Heather, our director, is here today. So a small but mighty team spread across the country, actually. And we have, I think, with all the work that we've done, probably over 90 years of collective workforce development experience in the various roles that we've had. So I am going to share a success story, but I also wanted to elevate some of our programs that have been really successful this year. In addition to, a really beautiful story about one of our job seekers who worked with the WorkSource staff. First, this is all going to be very high level, just kind of the highlights of these programs. The Career Exploration Passport program gives students direct exposure to careers through industry immersion, where they visit 5 different workplaces within a single industry, such as healthcare, hospitality, maritime, or construction. And so they can see the range of roles that exist. Each of these experiences is structured with an actual passport, a physical passport that we give to them that has questions, reflections, student-led inquiries, and observations of the actual roles that they're seeing. So the students aren't just watching, they're actively engaging with what the work might look like day to day. And the program really asks them to capture kind of everything that they see in a job. So what are the education requirements? What are the training pathways? How do you enter this field? Is it a good personal fit? Do you know anyone that has these types of jobs? And this was a program that we developed sort of as a briefer alternative to internships. Sometimes businesses are reluctant to engage in a long-term internship. So we really wanted to start to give you some of the exposure. And a quick example is our healthcare passport, where the students observe roles, everything from CNAs and RNs to radiology and lab techs, all the way to surgeons, just to bring that awareness. And a little celebration, this model is currently in process of being adopted by the Department of Labor as a nationwide best practice. Our team met with them, with our provider in the central subregion in Bend. So we're really excited about that. And then into my area of work a little bit, the business response networks. This is something I'm really proud of. These are 3 distinct groups within our subregion. So we divide our very large region into North, Central, and South. They bring together employers, workforce partners, education, economic development agencies, just to respond quickly to business needs and really embrace the no wrong door entry point for businesses and employers. So often there's this burnout among businesses of, I reached out to them and they passed me to this person who told me to go to the SBDC, who told me to talk to ECDev, who told me to talk to a chamber. And so we really wanted to create these networks to be the one-stop place, one-stop shop where you sort of can get your entry point, and we all meet monthly so that if someone's coming and speaking to me, I can transfer them over to economic development without having to have the business navigate that themselves. And you'll see kind of here, these are just some marketing materials that we have, and we've narrowed those down to sort of 4 distinct areas of business needs. And then we have one point of contact for each of those areas. Like I said, we've developed those in all 3 of our subregions. The one in Central and Bend and Redmond area has been functioning the longest. We've done everything from coordinated rapid response when there's major plant closures like Owens Corning in Prineville, while also supporting expansions like Basex and Sisters. And we just have worked to develop some long-term strategies on career pathways and working with employers, like working with the community colleges to develop pipelines into automotive and biotech training programs. And then we try to really center access and equity. And so we have a lot of cultural organizations that participate in these networks as well. And then our sort of partner agencies under the WorkSource umbrella. Next is our reentry program. This is a statewide program that most people probably have heard of, but it started here with EC Works at Deer Ridge in Madras, Oregon. It has now been rolled out to all 12 correctional facilities that you'll see here in this map across Oregon, and it's being managed by the workforce development boards and the WorkSource staff in each of those areas. Brendan and on our team oversees the program, the rollout. And I just wanted to touch on the data here really quick as a highlight. In program year 2024, we had 763 individuals within the correctional system who were enrolled in this program, where they began working with WorkSource while they were still incarcerated, and then had a warm handoff to individuals in the field with WorkSource when they were released. Our target recidivism rate was 13%, and we were at 0.9 within that program year. So wildly successful. It remains that, if not less, I think in the program year 25, we're still gathering a lot of that data. But employment in the second quarter after exit, so when individuals were released from incarceration in the field working with WorkSort, it was at 66%, which was a little bit under our target, but it's well above the WIOA minimum. So we're really proud of that as well. And again, this is statewide, so there's a large community of practice that works on all of this together. Case managers, the WorkSource individuals, the workforce development boards, everyone coming together to do this work. And then the measurable skills gains of 71%. So that figure continues to shift as we see more participants coming in to the program while they're incarcerated, and then completing the training and continuing to engage when they are released. And then last, just the success story, which Caitlin's hearing for the second time today, because we had our quarterly board meeting earlier today. This is a really, success stories are always beautiful. We love sharing them and hearing them from our team. But this one, I think I wanted to share because it sort of encapsulates all of the work that we do. So this is Raquel. She came to WorkSource Redmond with a goal. She wanted to finish her high school diploma and get back into the workforce. She'd been out of the workforce for a long period of time. So she started working with the career services team, which you'll see here, Ryan and his colleagues in our Redmond office. And she, was getting resume support, job search guidance, all the standard things. And she completed her high school diploma within 11 months in a really, innovative, kind of unique way program that they found for her that recognized some of her lived experience and her job experience as credits for her diploma. And so she was working with her employment counselor. She actually reconnected her prior experience owning and operating a tax and shipping business serving Latino families when she lived in California. And so she attended a WorkSource event, was interviewed on site, and hired with H&R Block in a leadership role. So she moved right into a management role, again, from the work that she was doing with WorkSource, attending one of those hiring events, taking advantage of all of the resources available to her. And the reason that this story is super special is because after being hired into that management role, Raquel returned to WorkSource now as an employer, and she is using our business services to post a self-referral job listing, hiring, continuing to grow her relationship within the same workforce system that helped her get her diploma and sort of move into reemployment. And so I think it just really shows what's possible when all of those services are connected and consistent and relationship based, and from the participant to the employee to the employer, like strengthening that system from all sides is really, really valuable. And I think it's just indicative of how powerful the work is that we do.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thanks
so much. Any questions for Kristen? We really value taking the time to come today. This is something that we'd like to introduce into our meetings, success stories, so we can really hear about the lives that are being impacted from the important work that's being done out there. So thanks, Kristen. Chris, I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce Kim.
Well, I don't have quite the introduction prepared.
I don't have quite the PowerPoint either, so we're good.
But actually, Kim and I go way, way back to my workforce development days. And so I am just loving the fact that I'm serving on the workforce development board here locally on WWP, as well as the state board, and working on and hearing about a lot of great innovation and projects that are happening here. So I asked Kim to join us and share some of that great work with us today. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you, Chris. And Chris and I had, so for those of you I don't know, sorry, I was double booked today, so apologize for being late. I'm Kim Parker-Jadenis. I'm the Director, CEO at Willamette Workforce Partnership. I do not have a PowerPoint presentation despite my great intentions. It's been just sort of a week like that, but we serve the Mid-Willamette Valley. So we serve 4 counties. And as you were speaking, Chris, and I was thinking that the East Cascades Works and Willamette Workforce Partnership are very close in size, not geographically, but by population and budget and other things. It's interesting to watch. We're usually just kind of neck and neck on who's ahead. So you're hearing from 2 similar boards in terms of WIOA allocation, but quite different. Obviously, we have Salem and lots of rural areas around. Of course, our very own Commissioner Craig Pope is our chief elected official, so I have the pleasure of working closely with Craig as well. And Chris and I had an opportunity to meet last week and talk about all sorts of fun things at the end of the day, so it was especially fun. And went through sort of a list of things to highlight. So I'm going to talk about 4 primary areas of focus. And I'm going to start with reentry because Kristen really set this up. And we, as you saw on the map that she shared, have 3 prisons in our region and have just really leaned into this work and have been very excited by it. We have also taken some of our Prosperity 10,000 funds and invested in different ways to serve the reentry population. And I have let me see if I can pull this off here, a slide I would like to show you. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this at the same time as I talk. Yes, I will, right here. Can you see that? Yes? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Yes. So this is a super exciting story. We invested in our Community Action Agency reentry program with Prosperity 10,000 funds a couple of years ago and worked with a group of folks to get them welding certification. And this is Jonathan. This is a newsletter. So for those of you who receive our newsletter, you might have seen this story already. But Jonathan completed his welding program at Chemeketa and felt so accomplished. Right after he completed the welding program, he took the certification test, and a week after that, he was able to interview for a welding job, passed their certification test, and got a job offer. And so that's what it's all about. And I think for me, it's the heartstrings that really speak to me. And what he says is here in blue. I wanted to join the program because I have a record and it's been hard to find a decent job with a record. Also, because I became a father and my son's birth pushed me to want to better myself and to be better for him. I want to be able to provide for him and give him a good life. So we've got a bunch you can imagine after hearing from Kristen and just the fantastic reentry work. I think from a systems perspective, I think it's important to recognize that in our region, we are using multiple funding sources to fund these programs. So it's been fantastic that we got the Federal Department of Labor grant through the Oregon Workforce Partnership that the East Cascades Works is managing. Oregon Workforce Partnership also received a Future Ready Oregon grant to help fund some of the work that takes place back in the community once the adults in custody are released. And then other work, other funding streams in our region, we took this other funding stream and invested in welding. So that is completely separate, but also really working to serve a targeted population that we know is untapped in many areas and in many ways. So very exciting about exciting work around training. The other thing that we have done, and I don't believe there's anybody here from Clackamas Workforce Partnership, but we copied our friends at Clackamas because I really believe in stealing other people's ideas, especially when they're really great, and have invested another funding stream in an expungement clinic. And this has also been part of our prosperity funding. And this has been just absolutely phenomenal because we have had one expungement clinic a month, and each time we've had to turn people away. So we are actually investing additional funds so that we can increase the frequency of these expungement clinics. And this is also by our friends at our Community Action Reentry Program. So I don't know how we're going to continue funding this. This is just a plug, by the way, for Senate Bill 1512, which is the Prosperity Programs Bill that will be considered during this short session. This is an example of the flexibility of the funding and how we can work with populations that are not always easy to take federal workforce square pegs and shove into round holes. So we are touching lives and impacting folks in ways that if we don't have this continued funding, we're gonna have to go find more, because I don't want to stop doing this work because it's so specific and it's so concretely impacting not just in participants and individuals, but businesses too, because we've got stories from the other side about folks who have hired these individuals and have just great stories. I'm just going to talk really quickly. I was told I had 7 minutes, but I know that this meeting's not over till 4. So I'm just going to keep talking until Chris tells me to stop. So the next thing I would like to talk about is apprenticeships. As we have heard from this administration multiple times, there is a real focus on apprenticeship. And in our region, we are embracing 2 specifically. One, we are funded to develop, which is a first for us. My friend Sarah down in the Southern Oregon Workforce Investment Board area is ahead of the rest of us in terms of managing apprenticeship programs as a workforce board. But we are developing, we got funding from the Higher Education Coordinating Commission to develop a certified alcohol and drug abuse CADs coordinator apprenticeship program. So we're going to be working with 2 community-based organizations, one of whom is very active in serving our houseless population in the region, and 3 different training providers, and developing an apprenticeship program. Again, we had this very targeted funding, and we're going to serve a small number of people after we develop this, but we are going to find ways to continue supporting this work. We've got to find ways to sustain these programs that are so successful. So this is new. We don't have it done yet, but I am highly optimistic. We also have been funding in our region a early learning apprenticeship program that, and I do have a slide. Let's see if I can pull this off again at the same time that I am speaking. I'm not going to be able to do this. Nope, I'm not going to try. Never mind, just kidding. Again, friends from our Community Action Agency Child Care Resource and Referral Program have developed a apprenticeship program. They were really struggling to get going because they had funding from Yamhill County Community of Care. So Yamhill County is one county. It's not a very big county. They came to us and said, we've got this great program. It's 12 months. We can do it in English and Spanish. We know there's a huge demand for childcare providers. And again, we were able to find some creative, flexible funding. And now we actually have 2 different funding streams for this program. And they have, I was able to pull this up, so I'll just read it to myself and let you all know. 15 college credits plus 60 hours of community-based training, 200 hours, a number of employers who are participating. And again, childcare, how to support childcare has been on our list of things to do since the beginning of time. So when we finally have opportunities to step in and lead as a workforce board and provide funding in ways that we haven't been able to before, it is so exciting and it is just absolutely thrilling. Chris, these folks are going to come to our board meeting in February to present. So if anybody wants to join us on February 19th at 8 a.m., you can hear directly from them and not me, but it's a very exciting program with great success again. And I will close by saying that we surveyed employers about 1.5 years ago and said, what are your needs? What do you need? Tell us what you need. We want to invest in you. And we heard overwhelmingly that they have middle managers who don't know how to manage. don't know how to manage, don't know how to lead. And they got promoted because they were good at their job, right? I mean, we've all seen this. We all know this happens. So we put together a request for qualifications and put it out to the universe and ended up in 3 different contracts with very different kinds of providers and trainers. Knife River Training Training Center with Chris is one of them. Chemeketa Community College is one. And then another is a community-based organization, a woman who's put together this training program who is just a dynamo. So they're all coming at this a little bit differently, and those cohorts have been packed. So this is a way to support current workers. It's not required that they're currently employed, but we have found that many of those participants are currently employed, and it is a way to support retention, which we know is just as critical as recruitment, and employers have been very appreciative and excited about that sort of fun, unique thing that we've had an opportunity to provide as well. Any questions?
Wow. Good job. Good job, Kristen and Kim. Great information. We can all find both of you if we have questions. We are coming up on 4 o'clock hour. Aaliyah did just let us know that we do not have a quorum, so we're going to hold over the minutes to February. I do want to mention, related to the leadership program that we're operating for WWP, we actually have a class going on right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
And our class looks very different than the community-based program. We're training foremen from companies and peer companies and strategic partners all over the Willamette Valley, and it's in demand, it's constant, and it's an incredible way for us to take the skills and instructors that we have that usually are reserved for our company and make them available to the rest of the community. And we absolutely love doing that. So thank you for that opportunity.
Great partnership.
Yeah, I think so. With that, I'm going to wrap it up. I want to go back to, those core concepts in our RFP around being responsive, being innovative, and customer-centered. And what we just heard from Kristen and Kim really speaks to how the system can really do that. So hoping with this new round, this new examination of what's going on and sitting down, breaking bread with everybody, we can get to creating more of that opportunity and more momentum out there. So if there aren't any additional questions, we'll probably go ahead and wrap up. But please, if there are, we have 1 minute.
I want to say thank you to Chris and Kaylin. I'm very excited about this continuous improvement committee direction, and I'm very appreciative for you two stepping up. And I think I can say that on behalf of many of my other colleagues from around the state too. So, yeah.
Thank you. Well, with that, we're going to adjourn. I am hosting the first annual Hard Hat Olympics this evening with 200 team members. So I need to go and see how preparation is going for that. So everyone have a great day, and we'll talk with you soon.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Take good care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.